Howdy folks, welcome to episode 41 of Bonfire Man. Here's how Bonfire Man works. I'm locked to specific chunks in the game. I have to interact with everything in my unlocked chunks exactly once. So that means every tree needs to be chopped, every enemy needs to die, every resource needs to be consumed. When I interact with something, it is exhausted. When something is exhausted, that means I'm not allowed to interact with it again. I'm allowed to randomly unlock a new chunk whenever all of the entities in my current chunks have been so exhausted. When I enter a new chunk, I rest at a bonfire, as in the Souls games. Resting at a bonfire refreshes or unexhausts all of the content in previous chunks that I've already been to. Now I have to exhaust all entities in both the old and new chunks to continue to progress. My objective is to unlock every chunk in RuneScape. According to my estimates, I think that's going to take about 10,000 hours to complete. If you're interested in all the specifics, minutiae, minor rules, exceptions, that kind of a thing, there's a Google Doc in the description that lists all of that. Let's go ahead and get to the playthrough. All right, so for today's episode, we've unlocked Camelot. I finally got to a point where I felt comfortable with having enough law runes to be able to get to teleport locations and get back at will. So we're going to teleport there, and then during the teleport animation, we'll cross the fog wall, basically. All right, so teleporting to Camelot. I think I have all the supplies I need for this trip here. Off we go. There we are. Excellent. Okay. Unlocked a new music track, Camelot, and we completed a medium task. Neat. So here we are in beautiful Camelot. It's interesting that the castle actually isn't entirely in its own chunk. I'm going to go ahead and light the bonfire. And let's rest at it. Fantastic. Everything has respawned. So not a lot to do here, really. There's a lot of trees I have to chop, unfortunately. I will not be able to complete the chunk for several reasons. I can't do Merlin's Crystal or Holy Grail for a really long time. And there's a bunch of stuff that's up here on this hill that I don't think I can get to. But the gist of it, the really positive thing we have is that the farming patches do technically exist in this chunk and not in a Catherby chunk. So I should be able to do everything that's over here, which is why I have all this extra crap on me here. Yeah, just barely in this chunk. Beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here in a second, but first let's talk about the episode objective summary. Okay, folks, let's take a look at the chunk map and talk about the objectives for this episode. If you want to skip this, there's a time code in the description to jump ahead back to the playthrough. Also, later in this section, there's going to be the first tedious Marstead ramble in like dozens of episodes. If this is your first ever Bonfire Man episode, click the time code. Just skip back to the playthrough. You don't want to hear this. It's going to be like 11 minutes of me talking over slides. First thing to talk about, as usual, is 100% completed chunks. These are chunks where we've done everything at least once. Everything in 100% completed chunks is optional, and we get a few perks for a handful of skills that would otherwise be impossible to train in this game mode. All trees can be chopped into stumps, all fishing spots can be fished until they move, all pickpocketable NPCs can be pickpocketed 28 times each. We can mine all shooting stars to depletion, we can run rooftop courses until a Mark of Grace spawns, and we can buy out all the shop stocks in these completed chunks once per cycle. As far as what's changed from last episode, the magic trees over at Mage Training Arena, we can chop those until they turn into stumps, so that's going to increase the amount of magic logs we get by about a factor of 8. Very fortunate that we already had the woodcutting level to chop those by the time we rolled that chunk. Also, this was technically true last episode, but because the Ent forest chunk is complete, we can defeat the Ents there and then chop their corpse until the log despawns, which is a nice little influx of rarer logs, but it's also not going to give us mahogany or teak logs, which are currently the only trees that we don't yet have access to. Also, there is a shooting star spawn right outside Mage Training Arena that we will now be able to mine to depletion. That brings the number of shooting stars available to 7. If things go well and we get a fully solo star, that's about 14 hours of AFK per cycle, which is crucial for me to be able to edit these videos, do stream work, do chores around the house. I've mentioned that like Bonfire Man is way more attentive than most other RuneScape game modes because I can only do everything once, so it's uncommon that I'm actually able to AFK anything. So having those shooting stars is a huge boon. That's it for our 100% completed chunks. Looking at blocked chunks, we can't complete these for some reason. The first reason is quests. If a quest starts in a chunk, we have to complete it to call that chunk 100% complete, and these are all quests that we can't do yet. Usually the thing that's blocking us isn't skill levels or other quest completions, but just more chunks. So our newly rolled chunk, Camelot, is one of these quest block chunks. We can't do either Merlin's Crystal or Holy Grail for now. And like I was warning you earlier, it's time for another tedious Marstead ramble. This time we're going to talk about the math of Bonfire Man, and eventually how that math relates to quests and a proposal that I have for the rules. The way Bonfire Man works, I do the first chunk, and then when I roll the second chunk, I do the first chunk and the second chunk. And then when I roll the third chunk, I do the first chunk, the second chunk, and the third chunk, and so on. That's called a triangular number, and it looks like this. This is a huge image, and the text is tiny, but I'm doing that on purpose to convey to you the, intensity of the situation. So I'm going to add a column on the left with the little check mark there, and this is the total number of boxes, or the total number of chunks I will have completed at the end of each cycle. These are the numbers assuming we have no special rules that allow us to skip content, either skipping 100% complete chunks or skipping lighting the bonfire altogether. So if you'll check out cycle number 10, for example, if you sum 10 plus 9 plus 8 plus 7 and so on, you get 55. So that means back in cycle 10, I had done 55 chunks. Now, 10 of them were new to me, but the other 45 were repeats. At the very bottom, you probably can't read it, but for chunk number 60, which is Camelot that we just rolled, again, with no rules allowing for any kind of skipping of content or skipping of the bonfire, by the end of this cycle, we should have done 1,830 chunks. So this number grows pretty quickly over time. There's close to 500 chunks in RuneScape, so you can imagine if we don't allow any kind of skipping of content, then this account is impossible. We'll never achieve our goal of unlocking every chunk. So we have 3 strategies to try to make this account more mathematically possible. Strategy number 1 is the 100% chunk completion rule that says any chunk that has had all of its content fully exhausted at least one time is now permanently optional. So as you saw earlier, we currently have about 34 100% completed chunks. Now, I still do a lot of the content in those chunks, but if I were to choose to skip all of it just to try to get to the next cycle as soon as possible, just to visually demonstrate what this is doing for us, if you assume that we 100% complete a chunk on the cycle that we unlock it, and then we immediately skip everything in the cycle, it greatly reduces the number of boxes that we have to do every single time. So that is strategy number 1. Strategy number 2 is skipping the bonfire in boring chunks. This is our rule where whenever we roll a new chunk and there's nothing new there, no new content, we just go ahead and complete it and roll another chunk. So this is what the impact to the scary triangle looks like when we're allowed to skip the bonfire occasionally. It removes a lot of boxes. Note this also includes a couple chunks where we had to skip the bonfire because we physically couldn't light one. That's the Dual Arena, Asgarnian Road, and Temporos. And you can see here that by combining strategy number 1 and strategy number 2, it becomes a lot more reasonable. This is still a lot of boxes. This still represents close to 1,000 hours of playtime for me to get up to Camelot, but it's quite a bit more reasonable than if we had to do literally everything. At last, we've got strategy number 3, which is not yet relevant and probably won't be relevant for a couple thousand more hours, but it's the premise that once we take any skill to 99, any nodes associated with that skill are now permanently optional. I can't depict this visually on our nice little triangular number chart, but you can imagine that if I suddenly hit 99 woodcutting and never have to chop a regular tree again, that's going to save not just dozens or hundreds, but possibly thousands of hours of repetition on this account. So going back to the objectives overview for the episode, why did I bring this up when talking about quest block chunks? I did some analysis. I looked at every single chunk in the game and I asked how many remaining chunks in the game world have a quest that starts there. Quests are particularly challenging for this account because if there's a quest in a place, there's no way we can preemptively have already completed it before rolling the chunk in which it starts, right? In other words, under the current rule set, it's impossible to immediately re-roll any chunk that has a quest that starts in it, even if the rest of the chunk is pretty boring. So it turns out that there are about 75 remaining chunks that I've yet to roll that have a quest that starts in them. That means that if we don't adjust the rule set in any way, those 75 chunks are guaranteed to kick off an entire 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 hour cycle. Now, it seems like the average amount of time to complete a cycle is actually kind of leveling out. It's stabilizing because of the aforementioned rules about being able to skip content and skip the bonfire. Yes, the triangular number is getting larger and larger over time, but we're offsetting that as we raise skill levels and complete content and make it so that more and more chunks are automatically re-rollable. However, if we don't reconsider quests at all, if we just look at those 75 chunks where a quest starts, and we assume, probably optimistically, that the duration of a cycle is stabilized at about 50 hours, if we multiply 75 by 50, that's like 3,750 hours. Now, I've said that my estimate for the entire account is about 10,000 hours. 3750 is less than 10,000, which is a good thing. But again, that's guaranteed minimum. It cannot be less than 3,750 from those 75 chunks alone. There are going to be plenty of other chunks that we're going to roll that have new content in them that have to kick off an entire cycle. And again, that assumes 50 hours per cycle, which I think is optimistic. I think that number is going to keep climbing no matter how much stuff we complete. So getting to the point of my mini ramble here, a proposal. I propose that we stop caring about quests, at least directly, when it comes to deciding whether a chunk is 100% completed or if it qualifies for skipping the bonfire. If we go with this solution, quests could still indirectly impact exhaustibility, right? There might be a quest in a chunk that unlocks the ability to interact with some node. So like you need to do Eagle's Peak to be able to use box traps, so the chunk can't be completed until we can catch a Chinchampa. We can't catch a Chinchampa until we do Eagle's Peak, so Eagle's Peak would still effectively be a blocker there. And a very significant percentage of content in RuneScape is blocked by quests, so I think we would still have a quest-blocked chunks section of this overview every episode. Completing the quest cape to me is beating RuneScape, and I would have put it as my goal for this account, but I think it's actually going to be more difficult than unlocking every chunk. If I were to make this change, all I'm saying, though, is that I wouldn't avoid quests. I still am going to complete them as soon as it's humanly possible to do so, because it's always valuable to do. Honestly, caring about quests is kind of an arbitrary decision that I made hundreds of hours ago without really understanding the scope of the impact to the math of the account. If I could go back in time and tell this all to my past self, I've learned so much about this account type. If I were to start a second Bonfire Man, it would be so clean. But it's taken coming on 1,000 hours of actual play for me to have learned these lessons, right? So in any case, I haven't applied this rule yet. I'm happy to hear your feedback. If you can let me know what you think in the comments. I'm actually not as far ahead as I previously was. I took a pretty long break and the cycles are getting pretty long. So I'm only a few episodes ahead of the published YouTube content right now. So there's a good chance you'll see your feedback implemented pretty soon here. Also, if you had a different idea for a way that I could manage it to try to make sure that this stays in the 10,000 hour target, I'm happy to hear it. I only go for let's just stop caring about quests because it's very simple and easy to deploy. And like I said, quests already indirectly affect so much exhaustible content that it's almost kind of double dipping, which we try to avoid in the Bonfire Man philosophy. That concludes the ramble on quests. Let's get back to the objectives overview. So after quest blocked chunks, we have skill blocked chunks. We need 50 agility for the Falador rooftop course and 70 agility for the Poln of Neech rooftop course, which is far off but possible. And then the 2 construction chunks require 82 construction to build master stashes. And while we're here anyway, as you're giving me your thoughts in the comments about what to do about quests, go ahead and let me know what you think we should do about stashes and other one-time surface activities. Quests, construction stashes, and the ever-burning fires you can build after the Making Friends with My Arm quest. All 3 of these things have something in common, and it's that you can only do them once. They're not a repeatable, exhaustible task like everything else on our task list for Bonfire Man. Originally, I started to include stashes on the same argument for why I was including quests, but if we're going to drop quests as a explicit requirement for completing a chunk or skipping a bonfire, then that logic also goes out the window for stashes and ever-burning fires. So if you let me know what you think for those separately, I'm happy to maintain a different ruling for stashes versus quests, since I think there are some asymmetries there. While we're here on skills, Slayer is still blocked. I have a Desert Lizard task that I can't do. I need to roll one of those 3 chunks there on the right to be able to complete it. After that, we have item blocked chunks. I need a big fishing net and a bird snare to do these 2 chunks down in Soul Isle. And finally, chunk blocked chunks. I can't do these chunks because there's content on the edges that I can't get to right now. That's it for the objectives overview. Thank you for also listening to the ramble. Please go ahead and share your comments down below. I'll try to gauge the, majority response and give an update next episode as to which one I'm picking. Let's go back to the playthrough already. All right, let's start working here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start by loading up this compost bin. I should show you some changes I made here. I moved a couple tasks around here. Previously, I had a bunch of tasks that I couldn't always do for like runecraft. I couldn't do all the combo runes. For farming, a lot of the tasks were optional depending on which seeds I had or whether I wanted to take the time to like rake patches. So I've moved a lot of the excess stuff that I don't always do but sometimes try to do into this optional tasks list. So you'll see like weeding patches listed here, some item pickups that I don't need to complete in order to clear the chunk are listed here, the steel nails that I can't always buy. So stuff here, I'm always going to want to plant tomatoes because I always can. I'm always going to want to plant barley because I need it to protect jute. And I'm always going to harvest my dwellberries and set up my compost. So we've got that done. Let me sit here and rake all these patches, and I'm going to try to plant everything here. I might actually start by planting the marigold and then start chopping the trees so that I know that it'll protect the tomatoes for me afterward. Planting this marigold. I'm going to compost it, and then I'm going to try to babysit it. It doesn't take very long to grow. I'm going to work on all these trees in the meantime. It looks like I will be able to get to the 2 unicorns that are in this chunk, but I don't think I can get to the ice giants. I think they're up on the hill. That's too bad because that's one of the currently blocked tasks I have from Sprea. Well, whenever I can do Slayer again. I can't do Slayer at all at the moment because I have a lizard task and I don't have access to any lizards. But at some point I might move to mostly focusing on doing a Sprea task per cycle and just leaving Vanaka out of it just because the risk is so high getting a bad task from him. Generally don't plant herbs right now. I'm trying to save all of my herb seeds until my farming level is as high as possible and I can actually use the planted herbs in herb lore. But since it's a new chunk, I'll go ahead and plant 1 guam seed. It's probably going to die. I'm not going to be able to baby it the whole time. All right, guam seed planted. Go ahead and mark that here, herb patch. And I'm going to wait to plant these tomatoes until this finishes growing. We got a problematic chunk boundary over here. I almost pathed over to that evergreen through the chunk border. I think that's the only way to get to it, and possibly to that one. I'll try coming around this corner, though. It looks like I'm allowed to go the other way. I gotta be really careful, though, not to accidentally path in here and unlock the music track. Definitely put these evergreen trees back here on the list of entities very few players have probably ever interacted with. I think this is the last tree I can reach. Talk about weird trees. Can't get to these handful up on the hill here, but I am able to do most of the ones for the cycle. Speaking of chunks, I don't think I'm going to be able to get here or to roll anything here because all of the only thing that this chunk really matters for is the max cape. And you can only get there from the Warriors Guild anyway, and I doubt this account will ever max. I'm not going to max my main account. Since all that's there is a shop and no new exhaustible tasks, I feel like I could just make that a reroll chunk, but we're not going to roll it from here since it's just a little sliver we can reach. Let me figure out how many trees I actually have access to so I can update my counts here. Look, it's 95 trees that I can actually reach, which means that there's 15 that I can't get up on this hill, which seems right. Like I can't get to any of those dead trees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, I think that's right. I think a couple of the ones I just counted were actually in an adjacent chunk. So let me add a task for that. I still have to chop the oaks. I was waiting until I had all these turned into arrow shafts first to save inventory space. I got that all fixed, working on the oak trees now. Killing these 2 unicorns. Oh wow, I forgot about this. This happened forever ago in the swamp. I forgot that they like retreat when they're low on health. Well, I stopped it from dragging me into another chunk. I might have to hop and fight them somewhere else. It's the last oak tree chopped. Right, the other unicorn I just killed in 1 hit. Nice. Okay, I tried hopping worlds. There we go. Unicorns down.
Farming patches are ready to harvest.
Marigold's ready. Perfect timing. I literally just finished everything else there was to do here. So we're going to leave the marigold there, and I'm going to plant some tomatoes. It looks like this timer is off. Once I plant these tomatoes, that's all for me to do here. I'm going to wait for this to finish growing. There's a fire rune spawn somewhere. It might be in the castle. I might pop in the castle and pick up those quests really quick. I think Merlin's crystal I can start and do nothing with. Oh, it finished growing as I was running. Let me plant these tomatoes. Okay, tomatoes have been planted, and I think that means all that's left to do here is to track down that fire rune spawn somewhere. See if I can do that now. Went ahead and started Merlin's crystal, but I don't think there's literally anything I can do with it until I roll some more chunks. Yeah, amusingly, I can't even get to Lancelot to talk to him because I need to use that staircase, and that's in the adjacent chunk. Apparently also the fire rune is on the 2nd floor in this area that I can't get to without the adjacent chunk, so that is not accessible. That means that we've done as much as we can in Camelot. I'm going to start working on like mining and woodcutting, but I'm really close to a woodcutting level, so I kind of want to just go, I guess I'm going to go to Mage Training Arena and deplete the 2 magic trees that I have there that are depletable. I'm going to go chop them down to stumps. That's as much Camelot as we're doing. Bye, Camelot. I don't carry runes around me very often. I'm tempted to go do Last Man Standing really early this cycle just because I want to get my rune pouch, and I'm guaranteed to. but it's okay. I don't need the inventory space at the moment. All right, chopping this here magic tree. Hopefully gonna get a level up here. Got a Quizmaster random while chopping it. We'll see what the mystery box has. There it is, woodcutting 79. Still haven't depleted this guy. And I've been chopping at this thing for a while, holding onto the mystery box until I have a Ring of Wealth equipped. Yeah, just chopping at this. It's a bummer because this is potentially, even just these 2 trees are a decent amount of AFK for me to work on editing, but it's possible that they'll come here and reduce them to a stump in one chop on both trees. So I can't really plan around it. Finally depleted. That was a long time, 24 logs, pretty good. 3 times better than the average. I'm gonna bank these and chop the other one. I have a need to play on mobile for possibly like 5 or 6 hours, so I'm gonna do all of my regular log, oak, and willow chopping during that period. Should be fine. I mean, probably don't even need to tell you that, but just in case there's any interesting random events or something, I will report them after I get back from playing on mobile. All right, mystery box, what we get? 20 nature runes, okay. Actual perfect timing, only 7 logs on this tree, but a total of 27 across 2 trees is pretty good. The average would be 16. Yeah, I'm gonna sign off and do this mobile thing. Probably come back to report on my mobile progress from your perspective in like a second or two. I very infrequently get fletching levels anymore, but fletching 66, working through regular trees here. Probably need to stop turning all these all into shafts. Like, just I'm gonna run out of logs. This is a short version, but I need to find, if I do like maybe one cycle where I bank all the logs, that'll catch me up for a long time. It's certainly way faster than banking constantly. So I finally finished wood cutting. I did most of it on mobile during this event that I was running. So I think I screwed up my counts a little bit. Because I can't mark things on mobile, right? So I think I completely forgot that I had completed a zone or 2 and chopped the trees there twice. I was totally zoned out. I'll figure out the math. I can reverse engineer how many logs I got by looking at arrow shafts, and I'll probably just undercut trees a bit next cycle to make up for it. It looks like I over chopped like 82 trees, which that's like a zone or 2 that I probably just overdid while I was doing the event. All right, I'll add a note and I'll fix it next episode. All right, I got a shooting star here. East Swamp, let's go. All right, made it all the way through that star. Also went ahead and recharged my ring. Also, on the topic of mining, I don't think I was available to record when I finished the Motherlode mine earlier. I ended up having 4 golden nuggets this cycle, which is 2 fewer than I'd like to have at this point. It's going to take a while for us to unlock that upper level, but it's going to be a gigantic breakpoint when we do. Got my first Mage Training Arena star here. Somebody else showed up, so I think I'm only going to get about an hour and a half out of this one, unfortunately. All right, yeah. Because of the extra person, I lost about 20 minutes, but that's okay. Still doing pretty good on both mining XP and Stardust. Knocking out my Temporos run. I did really well last cycle. Hopefully I can repeat that success. All right, that was basically perfect. So yeah, it's pretty easy to get 10 permits every single time. A little sad I made some mistakes earlier, but I had to practice the method, you know. Let's see what we get here. All right, still haven't gotten anything interesting. Well, I have gotten tons and tons of food, so that's not a bad thing. Nothing. Okay. Should be about to hit 61 fishing here. There it is, finally. 61 fishing. Still have a bunch of skilling to work on, like thieving, but I'm here in Soul Wars, so I'm going to do Soul Wars real fast. 40 zeal, okay. Not bad. Really about as good as you can get on a losing team. Holy moly, I got 60 zeal. I've never had that happen before. So that's a total of 100 for this cycle. That's nice. Guess I was particularly helpful that time. All right, I got my 3 spoils of war here. Let's see what we get. Hoping for coal. Oh, 52k is not bad. 2k is not good. Oh, I got a dragon dagger, which I can't use, right? Because I have to do Lost City. Yeah, that's a pretty rare drop. How many times have we opened? We've done 41 spoils of war, and I finally got a dragon dagger. Basically just need Intrana, and then I can finish that quest and use this. And I'm not, celebrating the 253 coal drop. That's pretty great. But that's neat to have access to now. I'm not actually sure. It might not the Colossal Blade might be better DPS even against size 1 enemies, but it would be really good for like killing imps and goblins and stuff. So I already had Entrana as my #1 most wanted chunk, but that has gone up now. I want it even more. All right, so I'm nowhere near the end of PVM, but I want to use some of these smithing catalysts since I just got a giant coal drop. So I'm going to try to use them here. So I think it's, if I use smithing catalysts, I have to do an adamant ore, 3 coal, 1 catalyst. So what does an inventory look like? Let me figure it out. 15 coal, 5 adamantite, 5 catalysts. Okay. My first time making an addy bar then, and I'm using the catalyst as well. Extra XP that gives you feels totally not worth it. Oh, I have to do 1 at a time too. That's kind of ugly. Otherwise it doesn't detect that I have enough resources to batch it, I guess. Yeah, these smithing catalysts, I might be the only account in RuneScape that they're good for. Like, they're good specifically because I don't have access to the blast furnace and because I have limited resources. And it's the combination of those two things that make them reasonable. Otherwise, they would just be terrible. I had to bounce from smithing there. Just got a shooting star that I'm heading to. But I ended up making 70 adamantite bars and 70 mithril bars, basically splitting the catalyst between them. I think it's probably still correct to only use catalyst on adamantite. But I might get to a point where I'm getting enough catalysts from Giant's Foundry that I can use it on both. And that leaves me with a little bit of coal still left over. So I think that means I'm going to make 5 adamant mithril swords, which is going to be great. Got a maze random here. Things are a little complicated because there was somebody competing for the star I was at. So hopefully I get back in time before anyone else shows up to it. All right, let's see what we get here. Looks like I got back before he got back. 63 coal, beautiful. I'm gonna hold on to that for next cycle, I think. Had a person in and out at this mine over here. Thanks to Zeneb for moving to another star. 78 mining. All right, finished mining that. I got about an hour and 40 minutes of mining, which is pretty good. 2,193 stardust because I got most of tier 1. So in general, went pretty well. I took that AFK time to work on sanity checking my NPC counts across all chunks because I haven't done that in a while. And I found a couple errors, so I still have a bit more sanity checking to do. None of it's like majorly impactful. I've been like skipping an imp every cycle for a long time because the chunk picker had the wrong count of imps for Falador Farm, for example. But I'll give that summary before the end of the episode once I'm done doing that research. Here's an interesting error in my favor. Apparently, because the tomato seeds and sweet corn seeds look similar, I accidentally planted sweet corn, but it didn't die, so that's lucky. Here's 60 thieving, which is a nice level because it's the requirement for the quest cape. I could technically stop there with thieving and be able to do most of the game's content, but I'm going to keep going because it would be great to get into the summer garden. Shooting star over here. Oh man, I got a quizmaster and I clicked on him and I accidentally clicked that I didn't want to do the quiz. And I was like scrambling to try to fix it. It's a bummer. I mean, the chance of it being something useful is like really slow. Really low, I should say, but still. Made it all the way through that tier 3. 2,447 stardust. Really good. So excellent news. They just upgraded the US West worlds and the ping I'm getting on them is... It's like 12 milliseconds better than my previous best ping, which was like 60 milliseconds. There's the ping monitor in the corner. This looks so much more stable than it has for a while. Let me see if I can go on one of the US East servers to kind of demonstrate. Yeah, this is a US East world. My ping is better on the US East worlds for whatever reason. It used to be 90 and it's down to like 60 to 70, which is good. I'm not going to complain about that. I wonder if they like also changed the login server or something, but you can see it's quite a bit more jittery when I zoom in. We got a T9 star here, mining it down. Had 2 other people show up, but fortunately it was close enough to the end that I should get close to the full 2 hours here. All right, it despawned. 1649, still pretty good for Stardust. Got a star in Dwarven Mine. Go do that. All I get the full 2 hours on that one. That's the most annoying one too, so I'm glad to have that done with. I think I'm gonna, since I'm already over here, I'm gonna pop over to the star shop, even though I get one more round of Stardust. I want to see if I get enough gems that I'll be able to get to 70 crafting, because if so, I'll start doing that. I already have something like 12k Stardust, so let's see what that converts to. All right, there's the final numbers with one more star to mine down, but still almost about 1 million GP in uncut gems. I'm going to deposit all those and see what it does to the banked XP for crafting. So right now, we're anticipating level 68. If I refresh after depositing those, it's 69. Nice, but also, well, we might be able to squeeze it out, because if we go ahead and start cutting gems now, I only need another 3,779 XP to finish getting 70. That is going to require me making a lot of coifs. I might be processing things for a very long time this cycle, but I could maybe squeeze that out if I turn these all into bowstring. The bowstrings don't get me there either. What if I make balls of wool? God, that's so terrible. Maybe if I make a little bit more jewelry, I can just barely squeeze it out. We'll see. I'm going to start cutting these gems though, because we will definitely get 70 this cycle, at least with the last bit of Stardust from the final star. Lots of level up announcements coming in here. 56 crafting. Crafting 57. 58 crafting. 59 crafting. 60 crafting. 10 to go. I would say I envy you being able to just watch these level ups back to back, but I actually really need this AFK, so I'm happy with it. 61 crafting. 62 crafting. Crafting 63. 64 crafting. 65 crafting. Crafting 66. My final star for the cycle is up. Unfortunately, it's been out for like 20 minutes, so I'm not going to get a full 2 hours out of it, but that's okay. Hoping you just get enough Stardust to very cleanly hit
shooting star found
70 crafting. Mining 79. I'm actually looking forward to 80 so that I can mine tier 8 stars. They don't pop up that frequently, but just makes my life easier. 85 is the big objective for mining right now. I think, well, going to be many episodes to go. I get about, looks like about 300k mining XP plus per cycle now with access to 7 stars, but the amount of XP per level is getting pretty high now. But 85 is when I can mine for Runite, which would be nice. Yeah, it just despawned at the 90-minute mark, so didn't get as much as I could have. 315k mining XP for the cycle, though. I have a little bit more I need to do. I have to go do Pure Essence, and I guess I'll knock out Limestone, but I'm going to try to turn the Stardust into a few more gem bags and see if that's enough to cleanly get us to 70. 67 crafting, 3 to go. I'm nabbing my last sack of gems here. I can get another 5 of them from that star. We'll see if that's enough to cleanly get to 70. I think it might be. Yep, those extra gems put us pretty cleanly into 70 without having to do anything with the flax or the wool. Curious. Okay, I still have to do the leather, but that's okay. I'll do that at the end here. 68 crafting. 69 crafting. Nice. A lot of content creators don't want to engage sincerely with the level 69. They want to make some kind of joke about it being the Reddit number or the funny number. But I will just say nice. I'll engage with it authentically. Nice. Okay, it took a long time, but I have officially cut all of my gems. That was 518,000 crafting XP, which is an insane amount of XP for any skill, even for mining. Not quite 70. I'm going to have to squeeze that out with cowhides. So I'm going to have to head over to Alcarid, slowly tan all of these, and then turn them all into coifs. So I'm going to start working on that. So I completely forgot that you need thread to do anything with leather. I only have 84 thread. I've actually been kind of bad about being on top of getting the 1 thread spawn that I have access to. So I'm not going to be able to use all of my leather. Might not be able to make 70 happen. I'll look around and see if I can squeeze it out somewhere else. So I'm going to be able to squeeze out level 70 this cycle, just barely. It's going to require me needing to make all of my beef into sinew. And it's going to require, well, it did require me making a whole bunch of emerald rings that I just made. I made 101 emerald rings, and that gets me right in shooting distance, so. Okay, I finally finished turning all my beef into sinew. 1,320 sinew. I got to go turn it into crossbow strings now. That's really inefficient, and my issue with thread is a big problem. I think it makes the value of cowhides way lower. Just the value of killing cows way lower, especially now that I can get gems as a better way to level crafting. So I think starting with this cycle, I'm officially going to start skipping cows, which should save me a decent amount of time because it takes a long time to cart all that stuff to the bank. Okay, it took forever, but 70 crafting. You can now craft diamond amulets. God, I don't recommend Sinew. Hopefully this will be the last time I do it on the account. It's garbage XP. It's very, very slow. I'm going to finish burning through these just to get them out of my bank, and then I'll go craft a diamond amulet. Okay, here comes the diamond amulet unstrung. 567,000 crafting XP this cycle. Let's string it, and let's enchant it. Okay, power amulet. This is outstanding. It's going to be great. Great accuracy, great defense, +1 prayer, and the 6 melee strength is probably enough for me to keep a max hit. Let me test that. All right, we have to check for both weapons. I'm probably going to lose one on one of the two weapons. So if I switch to the Amulet of Power on the Colossal Blade, I do lose a max hit, sadly. With the Rune Sword, I also lose a max hit. I think I'm just in a really, I'm in a really unfortunate level here where I'm just at a level where with both weapons, I think if I got one strength level, the Colossal Blade wouldn't lose a max hit with this equipped. But I still probably want the accuracy boost and all of the other boosts that come with it, like the prayer. So yeah, totally worth it. Glad I did it. OBS is giving me trouble. 78 strength. Okay, that was a nice level up for strength there. Now this Amulet of Strength no longer affects my max hit, which is nice because I like having a little bit more accuracy. I need to make a decision on when I'm going to switch back to attack. It's really muddied now because whether I have the extra max hit is dependent on if I'm using this amulet versus the Amulet of Strength versus this sword versus the Rune Sword and so on. So I probably just need to set a level, an arbitrary level to pick to start leveling up attack and defense again. Guess I'm going to we'll do 80 strength. Once I hit 80 strength, I'll try to get attack up to 73. I can do math. And defense up to 66. Okay, so I'm wrapping up skilling here. I noticed while I was doing some sanity checking and making a new tab on my spreadsheet for variations on monsters. We'll talk about this a little bit later when we start doing PVM, but for example, there's a difference in the drop table between skeletons that are plain versus unarmed versus armed. And I've just kind of been double checking that across the board. One thing I don't think I realized when I first came to Poland of Nietzsche is that there is a difference between bearded bandits and unbearded bandits, whether they have a scimitar or a blackjack. I should have noticed that because it's in like the skilling guide that they give different XP and can be pickpocketed at different times. I think I should be okay on that. I'm just going to keep track of it going forward as two separate bandits. All right, I'm about to do the Draenor agility course, hoping for a very low spawn rate here. That would be nice. Here it is, 38 agility. I can use the Alcarid Mining Pit Cliffside Scramble. That's actually useful. I forgot that was on the menu. 50 is the target for Rogue's Den whenever we unlock Berthorpe. Would be really nice. I have to decide how I'm going to handle the Rogue's Den. Since it's a mini game, I'm probably going to say one piece of the Rogue's outfit per cycle rather than one run of the place per cycle, because it's completely useless to do that place except for pieces of the Rogue's outfit. And the RNG could, you know, make the Rogue's outfit take a really, really long time. But I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. That's my thought for now, though. 50's gonna take forever. Though, like, even if I get 20 laps here, it's really not very much agility XP. And I'm gonna have to double the XP that I'm sitting on like twice to get to 50. So I might end up having to lamp it again, but I really want to get it Hunter high enough that I can catch baby Implings finally. Okay, one of them spawned after... Oh, that tracks the laps for me. I keep counting them. I'm gonna have a plugin that does it for me. This is lap number 10, so really still been getting unlucky on this. I had that one cycle where I got like 25 laps without a spawn. All right, so we got to talk about enemy variants. I've done I'll probably show the full spreadsheet later, but I've done a full review of all the enemies and all of the chunks that I currently have access to, just to make sure that I'm sanity checking everything, that I've been doing the right kill counts, that sort of a thing. So I kind of want to talk you through some of my discoveries here as we get into the PVM phase of this cycle. I've copied and pasted the numbers of things that I have remaining to do here. There is a distinction between high level and low level barbarians. I need to be careful to stay on top of that, even if I'm using fungibility. There is a distinction between high and low level dark wizards. I've already talked about level 5 versus level 2 goblins. I'll get more into that in a little bit. Armed versus unarmed hobgoblins I've already been tracking. I noticed that much earlier. This is what I was talking about a second ago, with there being 3 different variants of skeletons and many different variants of zombies. This is excluding some variants that I don't even have listed here, like Stronghold of Security, skeletons, and zombies. So I got to show you the spreadsheet for this to make any sense. Let me pull up the spreadsheet. Okay, so this is the way I was previously tracking monster kills per cycle, and I'm going to continue to use this because it's helpful for me to keep track of like what is showing in my loot logger, so I know I have the right kill counts. It's a really nice sanity check. This helps me. All that I do basically is after every cycle I add all the new monsters to the bottom and I update the count. So like when we went from chunk 2 to chunk 3, we got an extra goblin, right? We went from chunk 4 to chunk 5, we got 2 extra men, and I've just been kind of eyeballing this. What this information is missing, though, this is just me fixing it on a chunk-by-chunk basis. It's not tabulating how many enemies are in each chunk, and whether or not that chunk is complete, and whether or not I'm skipping the enemies in that chunk. And that was the sanity check that I wanted to do here. So I'm going to continue to use this as, like, this is the order in which I got the enemies, and then the kill counts that I expect to get for each of them. But this is the new tab I made for monsters. So let me explain this one. This is pretty similar to my skilling targets tab that I've shown you before. Basically, I go chunk by chunk. I color code the names of the chunks based on whether they're completed or not, right? So blue chunks are quest blocked, yellow chunks are complete, red chunks are skill blocked, white chunks are item blocked. Kind of helps me to eyeball it. And then I've done in alphabetical order, finally, all of the monsters that I have access to. I've created a skip column. So this is, if I'm able to skip this monster, will I skip it? I recently added cows to this list. I was talking about that earlier during the crafting grind. I don't really want to kill desert snakes or desert wolves. They don't drop anything I care about. And then I also have, let me clear the filter here. I also have a thing that formally tracks whether the chunks are complete, right? So if we go all the way over here, let me pick a monster that's partially complete. How about, actually, cows are a good example. I want to skip cows now, right? So there are 83 cows in all of my available chunks. I've told it that I want to skip cows. So what this does is this looks at, okay, you want to skip cows, then I'm going to ignore all of the values where there is a Y in the completed row up here, and where there is a Y in the skip column here. So this returns to me how many cows left over do I have to kill across my incomplete chunks, right? Because I still have to kill those, even though I don't want to. They're not incomplete chunks, so I'm not allowed to skip them under normal circumstances. So this helps me to kind of track a little bit better and then compare to my loot logger to make sure I had the right numbers. On average, I did have the right numbers. There were a couple errors here that I'll talk you through. None of them are like a major deal for the account. So one of them is the guards. Technically, there are 3 guards just outside the border in Falador. I was having trouble with guard counts in Falador before. The chunk picker was including a bunch of guards that only spawn in Deadman mode. And I got the chunk picker dev White Cat to fix that, thankfully. But it turns out that 3 of the guards I've been counting for Falador for a while technically spawn right on the chunk border, like right at the southern entrance in the chunk to the west of Falador Farm. Now, I've been killing them because they immediately wander into Falador, but they're technically not part of Falador. I am going to continue killing them. I'm just going to track them as a border enemy, but that's a thing that I noticed. I've been missing an imp for a while. I don't know if this was an issue with the chunk picker having the wrong counts or the wiki being wrong, but there is an extra imp in Falador Farm that I just haven't been killing. I went ahead and updated the counts. I should be killing 30 per cycle rather than 29. Rams, I haven't really been overkilling 3 because I don't want to kill rams. All they drop is bones. I've been killing all the rams in the pen near Lumbridge, but technically only one of the 4 rams that spawns there spawns in the Lumbridge chunk. So since we care about what chunk they spawn in, I don't need to kill 4. I can get away with just killing 1. I've been overcounting skeletons a little bit. So technically I should be killing a total of 14 armed, 30 plain, and 12 unarmed skeletons. But I think I misunderstood. I assumed that certain skeletons were actually... I assume they were unarmed when they were really plain. So unarmed has a drop table, plain skeletons drop bones only. So if I can get away with it, I want to skip as many plain skeletons as possible. And I've been killing 4 extra plain skeletons every cycle that I'm going to try to stop from now on. So I think going forward, you're going to see my skeleton kill count's going to be more like 56. Thieves, I've been underkilling slightly. It's not a huge deal. I don't have these guys as a skip. I've been partially skipping them, though. The reason I've been partially skipping them is because I thought they had a boring drop table, but they do drop earth talismans like men, so it's worth killing them. I'm going to be increasing the number of thieves I kill to 7. But other than that, all of these numbers exactly match my loot logger targets. So like as a sanity check here, here's zombies, right? The 12 armed, 1 plain, 5 unarmed, and then the special zombie adds up to 28 total zombies. And if I look at my loot logger over here and I go to zombies, I've been killing 28. I overkilled last cycle, which is why this says 27. You probably don't care about this. This is just happening behind the scenes. I'm making sure that all my numbers are right. I'm using this to keep track of what I'm killing for PVN, and it's making it a little bit easier for me to keep track of how many total creatures I'm skipping. And I might, at some point, cycles are starting to get so long that I might want to set all of these to skip equals yes, and just kill only the enemies that I have to kill. Like there's a couple here that I'm going to want to kill every cycle no matter what. But I really want to start thinking hard about, do I really need to be killing all these goblins every cycle, right? Because right now I should be killing closer to 129 goblins. I think I've been doing like 138 because that's been including the level 5s. But there's no point to kill the level 5s because they don't drop air talismans. So they're kind of a waste of my time. Let's say 129 goblins still takes a really long time to kill. If I want to stop killing them, or stop killing as many as I can get away with, I can bring that down to 74 by saying, yes, skip goblins in completed chunks. Calphite Queen is another one that I probably want to kill every single cycle. Even though she's technically skippable at this point, I don't want to skip her because I only get 1 kill per cycle and it's really important. But I probably don't really need the talismans from the goblins or the men or a lot of these other enemies that I've been religiously killing every cycle in my completed chunks. So I'm not doing it yet. I'm still going to do as much PVM as possible. I'm still going to, distinguish between enemies that feel like they're worth killing versus enemies that are a waste of my time. Highwaymen are probably a waste of time, for example, since all they drop are black capes. Yeah, I guess I'll revisit this in the future as I make some more decisions, and I'll let you know if I end up expanding the skips. I'm curious. I might do one cycle where I skip as many PVM enemies as I possibly can get away with, just to see what it does, how much time savings it provides for me, right? If it ends up being like inconsequential, if it's like an hour out of 35 hours or something, then it's probably not worth losing out on the loot. But I think getting to more chunks sooner is probably net better for this account in the long term. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I'll get back to BVM here. Got a mystery box that I didn't accidentally dismiss this time. A body rune. Got a genie, thank you. Throw that on Hunter. I think that's a Hunter level up. Yeah, 14 Hunter. Hey folks, Feature Marstead here real quick. I know there's already so much meta rambling going on in this episode. Big thanks to Meatwad here for bringing this up on YouTube recently. I've been putting off going to Puro-Puro until I get to 17 Hunter to catch baby implings. I do technically already have access via the crop circles in Varrock and Draenor. So the question here from Meatwad is, what do I plan to do with the magical wheat that's in Puro-Puro? I may have talked about this super briefly in a much, much earlier episode, like back when we first rolled Varrock. My original working plan when I was imagining going into Puro-Puro is that I would just treat XP gain from pushing through the wheat as effectively being the same as like an agility shortcut, where I can use it so long as I'm using it to get somewhere for the cycle, but I can't abuse it to like grind the skill. Not that that would be efficient training at all. Now, that was contingent on a misunderstanding of my part of how the wheat pushing even works in Puro-Puro. I didn't really conceptualize it as a bunch of different individual nodes that can all generate strength XP and therefore can each be thought of as exhaustible. And sure enough, as Meatwad points out here, if you go to the chunk picker and you look at Puro-Puro's features, there are 908 individual magical wheat nodes down there. So you could make an argument that I should be exhausting all 908 wheat nodes per cycle, which, based on my napkin math and how many ticks it takes to push through each wheat, that's going to take about 3 hours every cycle and is going to produce a little bit less strength XP than I would get from killing 2 Tazarkets. So I talked about this a little bit back and forth with Meatwad in the comments, and I think we have a good compromise for how to deal with it going forward. First off, I'm more than willing to suffer for you all on this account, and in fact, I do suffer significantly in similar grinds, like chopping 1,500 regular trees per cycle takes me several hours. It's horrible woodcutting XP, it's horrible fletching XP, but it produces resources and it does produce some significant amount of XP, and it's part of the theme of the account is chopping every tree in RuneScape. The wheat, though, kind of feels like blood from a stone, and I think that Jagex has agreed and that they've offered the formal option to disable XP gain down there because it's not really the point of Puro-Puro. The point of Puro-Puro is catching the implings, right? So the compromise I worked out with Meatwad is that when we first go to Puro-Puro, when we get 17 Hunter and we go down there to catch the baby implings, I will commit to pushing through every wheat node, all 908 of them, one time. After that, I will talk to the Elnok Inquisitor, I will disable strength XP gain, and if the nodes aren't producing XP, they're not exhaustible, and I will not care about it anymore unless we somehow manage to finish Puro-Puro if we're able to catch a lucky impling, which probably won't ever happen on this account. But if it did happen, I will push through it one more time to 100% complete the chunk. I hope that sounds fair and equitable to everybody. Let's get back to the playthrough. Hey, he's got another giant key. We'll try to fit in another Obor kill before the cycle's over. He's got an adamant kite shield from Sour Hogs, which I will be able to use in the Giant's Foundry. Pretty sure it's worse than the Rune Square shield, but still, that's cool. It's the first time getting one. I've killed 3 so far. I'm just showing lifetime kills here. All right, I'm coming close to the end of PVM here. I have some stuff to do in the desert, Calphite Queen, that sort of a thing. Today, the Christmas event launched, so I figure may as well go do that. I probably won't be switching my outfit because I really like the soul's energy of this one, but maybe there's a piece in the outfit that will complement this. We'll see. And lucky me, I actually can get to the event again. This is a somewhat recently rolled chunk. I don't think I'm going to react to the whole thing. I think that's irritating. I was watching my old QuestCape VODs where I'm like reading every line of dialogue and I hate it. So I'll let you know if anything interesting happens. Santa is freaky looking. I don't remember him being this huge. Started Christmas event, the festive games. I just passed through the dialogue, but he asked for a twisted bow. That's pretty great. I've said this a lot of times, but I think the Jagex team, the folks that write quests and events, are like legitimately pretty funny. Need to solve a Christmas riddle. What do you get when you meet a vampire in the winter? Frostbite. Can't wear anything on your back. Well, they put a nice little bank deposit box here. Nutcracker Pub Grounds. Oh god. Okay, so this is technically... I'm surprised that it's not showing as a subsurface chunk. I'm not going to worry about chunks for holiday events, obviously, since I can only access them temporarily. I'm sure no one cares about that, but let me add this to the locker here. Should be an instance chunk. Now, that doesn't correspond to any surface chunk areas. Oh, I don't know if I can reveal it, can I? I'll turn this off temporarily. I'll just do that. Well, this is cool. It's phrased as a little game, but it's NPCs who look like players. That's fun. But their names have like birth years, like 94. That's fun. Animations for this are actually pretty good. It's like another contender for the podium. There's a podium? No, I just say that because it sounds cool. Oh, I like having someone here in a Halloween costume. That's pretty great. Doing so much DPS. Golden Snowball. Okay. Best in slot snow. Oh, they give you a little portrait in the corner. That's cool. Can you cratch it? I get it. Sudden death. Snowball. Snap zooms. That was great. Get 1 snowball each to throw. Hit first is out. Already hit the referee. You even go for Chunk Bonfire. What's that about? Another dwarf knocked me clean out. Stuck into the pub. I'll let the ball hit me. Ah! Golden snowball. Oh, I love this person holding this stack up. That's fantastic. Oh, that's a nice little event complete pop-up. I dig that. Just unlocked all of these music tracks, and I can get stuff from Diango. Got Santa's List, which is pretty silly. Sack of coal, which is pretty silly. Snow goggles and hat looks cool. I do have the gilded robes, so that kind of matches the gilded robes if I ever try to change to those. Staff and a bunch of party hats and Christmas crackers. They're going to take up bank space for me for a long time. All right, I'm going to head over to Diango and see what the other items are. I feel like this is the most soulsy thing you can get from Christmas events, which I guess makes sense. You wouldn't get a lot. The anti-Santa costume is pretty good too, but it's like very on the nose in terms of being Santa. I think what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to take the anti-Santa boots because I think they look better compared to the mime boots. I actually kind of like the snow imp gloves with this. Like I'm a monster underneath the cloak, but it has kind of weird weapons clip into the gloves, unfortunately. Actually able to get steel nails this cycle thanks to being able to get to these 1250 skill total worlds. They're not totally bought out there. All right, finished up Rune Doku here. We'll get a pretty good supply every cycle. It's really cool that Rune Doku is like very necessary for my account long term. I don't know if any other account cares about that minigame. Got farming 42 here at Sorceress's Garden. Can now grow curry trees. Okay. Over here at KQ on phase 2 here. Hopefully we get a cool drop this time. So I'm actually doing really bad here for some reason. It's just every time I hit, I'm hitting for like a 1 or a 2. Just bad luck. And it's possible she's going to despawn for the first time since I got the Colossal Blade. So I'm just going to sit here and pray that that's not the case. Okay, that's a much better hit. All I had to do was complain about it, and I immediately get a max hit there. She's got like 5 health left, and I've got like 7 minutes, so I guess it's possible that she'll despawn, but unlikely. I also forgot to bring my Amulet of Power, because of course I did. All right, what we get? I'm good, please. Torstal and Dark Crabs. Not so good. Oh, I didn't notice it when I got the kill, but that was my 10th KQ kill. Loot's been pretty terrible. I guess the Lava Battle Staff was kind of cool, but everything else, not super useful. All right, I'm done with all my PVM. Heading out to do construction now. After that, Giant's Foundry is going to be pretty exciting because I finally get to use adamant bars there. We'll see what kind of XP and money we pull out of that. And then just last man standing, so we're getting close to the end of the cycle here. All right, I'm about to get construction 56 here in a second. 56 construction. I don't have any construction objectives for a very long time, even with boosting, so it'll change once I get access to teaks and mahogany, but pretty much everything else on the board is from teak and mahogany. All right, here we are on the Giant's Foundry. First time ever doing an Addy Mithril alloy. We'll see how it plays out here. Okay, I imagine this is what Giant's Foundry is supposed to look like with these really thin heat windows and really thin progress meters. I've only been doing it the stupid way with bronze and iron for a really long time. All right, time to see how much XP we get for this. 15k? It's pretty good. 31k coins. I have this feeling that I haven't been able to confirm 100%, but my feeling is that the majority of the XP and the money you get from Giant's Foundry comes from the mold, not the bars that you're using. And so if you're just interested in using your inventory or your bank as efficiently as possible, and you're just interested in using your coal as efficiently as possible, that even using the catalysts, it's not worth putting coal in anything other than mithril, right? I'm gonna have to do this more to find out if that's true, but I suspect that it's true, that adamant ore is basically just a waste. We'll see eventually whenever I get around to being able to try making a Addy rune alloy. It's not true for, like, you know, real main accounts, because main accounts care about XP rates, and they have other options for, you know, getting lots and lots of coal that I don't have. About to ding 73 smithing here once I confirm. So yeah, the XP's been pretty good. Okay, so I think I'm developing a theory of smithing here. I want to stay at Giant's Foundry until I get access to Blast Furnace, because Giant's Foundry now is supplying me with catalysts, which is getting me more value out of the small amount of coal and large amount of adamant and mithril ore that I have in my bank. But There's nothing else to redeem here really from the shop. The other main advantage of doing this is coins, and I'm doing okay on coins right now. By reserving literally all of my bars for the Giant's Foundry, I'm not using them to make like bolts or arrow tips that I desperately need to level fletching and to just have more ammo available to me, right? So yeah, I think the objective is I'm going to continue doing everything I possibly can at Giant's Foundry until we get access to Blast Furnace, which is probably very, very far away. And then I'll likely switch to actually like crafting stuff with smithing, making darts and bolts is going to be the big thing. And I guess arrow tips as well. So I can use all those arrow shafts that I have in the bank. Just a statement of strategy that likely won't matter for 3,000 hours. I'm gonna wait to smith bars anywhere other than Giant's Foundry until I get to the Blast Furnace, but I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm gonna start making arrow tips out of bronze bars and iron bars. The reason for that is that I get a small amount of XP and a small amount of money for using these at the Giant's Foundry. I get a comparably very small amount of reputation. I actually just got a shitload of reputation from making like 5 adamant mithril swords. I think I can stick to just doing, because my entire logic was based on coal efficiency, and coal efficiency doesn't affect bronze and iron the way I'm currently using them at all, right? So I think it's probably good for me to start making arrow tips now. I need arrow tips. I have 104,000 headless arrows and 114k soon to come along the way. I think I need to make arrows first before I start making bolts, because I have a limited number of feathers between the two of them, and I really want to just burn through this stack of arrow shafts and extract the fletching XP that's contained within them. And then if I have lots and lots and lots of arrows, like so many arrows that I don't care anymore, I can start actually training range, which I'm probably going to do once I get to 80 strength. My plan is once I hit 80 strength, I'm going to get attack to 80 minus 7, defense to 80 minus 14, and then probably range to 80 minus 7. Yeah, I'm up by like 103k coins just based on making adamant. I got an extra 49 catalysts from all of that reputation, and now I'm going to go make these bronze bars and iron bars into arrow tips. And I'm going to start accruing bronze and iron materials, and I'll use those to make swords when I have enough materials for it. And in the process of doing this, I am definitely realizing that I'm never going to catch up. Literally never going to catch up on my headless arrows. Maybe if I unlock an archery shop with a refreshing stock and I buy them out every cycle, but I don't even know how many arrow tips are stocked in those shops. I don't think it's enough, to be honest. Yeah, I'm doing the math here. Even with shops, those headless arrows are never getting they're never getting made. It's hard not to do Giant's Foundry for everything, because I do think it is the most XP and GP dense thing that I can use bars for. I'm gonna go ahead and finish making arrow tips this cycle just to kind of shore up my bank of arrows, but I may have to go back to Giant's Foundry. Well, I had to do that once to learn that it was a bad use of bronze bars. I have 1,950 bronze arrows now and got a total of 2,550 fletching XP from it. Yeah, 6,000 total fletching XP. Very much not worth it. That's okay. I had to find out. All right, doing my last man standing here. I'm guaranteed to get the rune pouch this cycle because I only need 7 more points, and that's the minimum that I can get. So that's exciting. First game's going pretty well. Lit it against someone AFK. Just hiding till the end as usual. I'm a coward. 2 points in my first game. Somebody found me. 5 to go. Another lucky AFK person, so hiding again. Oh my god, I won a game. And I got 3 kills. Amazing. That's really exciting. I didn't think I would ever win a game, but I was actually trying on that last fight a little bit. Heart's beating out of my chest. All right, well, let's get the cape for that. I guess that's cool. And I'll pick up my rune pouch. You'd hop somewhere where there's not a million people here, though. I didn't get over to hit start recording because I just thought I was going to lose, as always, in second place. All right, finally getting this rune pouch. Confirm. Perfect timing to get my tier 1 cape. 3. Victor's cape. Cannot believe that happened. It has no stats, but in a rune pouch. Oh my goodness. That's what a rune pouch looks like. That's very exciting. Probably not going to get to use it for a long time. There's not a lot of content where it's going to be relevant to me really until I get to any chunk that lets me buy out the rune shop every cycle. I can't really train magic until then, and there's not a lot of training loops that involve me having it, but I'm glad to have it now. I can start putting the points in something else. It's probably just going to be something boring like rune arrows, but you know, that's magic XP and money. Yeah, my heart's still pounding out of my chest, so give me a sec to get ready to sum up the chunk here. Okie dokie, it's the end of the cycle. Let's talk about what we did. Goals. Just gonna click through these really fast. If you want to look at the specifics, pause the video. It already takes way too long for me to go through this. If it's green, that means I did it this cycle. Error tracking. I did skip water runes. I did skip killing a chicken and a zombie from an overkill last cycle. I made some new mistakes this cycle. I need to mine one fewer pay dirt and pickpocket a farmer one fewer time next cycle. So I'm just going to delete these 3 here. So those are for next cycle. And then optional tasks. I will not be doing Mage Training Arena. This is like Giant's Foundry in that it's based on materials that I feed into it. So I'm not limited in how many times I can do MTA per cycle, but I'm probably also not going to do it at all until I need something from it, because I can't afford to spend the runes on it right now. I was only really able to make lava runes and didn't do too much else, honestly. I was able to buy steel nails, which is nice. I picked up all the other items that are owed to me. Actually, let me show you hours played first. Here we go. This cycle took 47 hours, 47 minutes. A lot of that extra 7 hours was spent grinding, crafting, cutting all of those gems, making all of that sinew into crossbow bolts, something I'm not going to have to do for a while, so that was nice. We're at 36 days, 23 hours played. We're getting pretty close to 1,000 hours played. When we get there, I'll see if I remember, I'll try to compare to where I was in my blind Questgate playthrough, XP-wise. But yeah, let's do XP next. Okay, here are the XP figures. Just leave this on the screen for a second. The more interesting stuff is the deltas from past cycles. And here is the delta. This is the change in XP gain from this cycle compared to last cycle. So obviously a ton of crafting XP, 562,783. Hopefully I don't have to do anything like that again for a while. Greatly bumped up the total XP. Mining is up by about 26k just from, getting luckier with shooting stars. Everything else looks like it's within the usual tolerances. Cooking's way down, obviously, because I did a bunch of cooking last cycle. And prayer is down because I've completely stopped picking up and burying regular bones. But everything else on there looks pretty standard. Let's look at the average. Here's our average XP gain. We get about 611k XP per cycle now. Over 47 hours, that's about 13k XP per hour on average. So not super great, not super great. A little bit worse than an efficient Slayer player. Yeah, some of these numbers are coming up pretty high. Mining in particular has a pretty high average per cycle now. It's definitely going to outpace both woodcutting and strength and become my highest skill very soon. I think we're going to hit both 80 mining and 80 woodcutting and maybe 80 strength next episode. So it'll be cool to get some 80s on the board. All right, that's it for XP. Let's look at the loot tracker. Loot went well this time. Fixed some mistakes in prior cycles. Supplies, again, it has Last Man Standing in there, but really brought my rune usage way down. It even includes teleporting to Camelot. Random event history, we're due for one, so one might spawn while I'm talking here. Let me make sure I put on some headphones so I hear the notification. Randoms have been kind of boring. We did get a genie, put that on Hunter and got a level up. Other than that, nothing particularly crazy lately. Let's look at the bank. New stuff, we got a dragon dagger from Soul Wars. I just need to make these silver bolts. Made a bunch of ruby rings in the effort to hit 70 crafting. Made the amulet of power. Finally, I went ahead and just converted the adamant kite shield into addy bars here. Bunch of party hats, holiday stuff. The dark crabs are from KQ. The steel mace, I thought I already had one of these, but this is just, it was dropped from something. A Black Knight or something like that. Actually, I think it was the Black Knight, because I remember it was a potential best in slot drop when we first ran into it. We finally got it after all that time. The rune pouch and the Victor's cape. Let me move these around real quick. All right, let's do the slow bank scroll. Not so slow bank scroll. I'm really trying to speed this up. Pretty good on the whole. really excited to eventually use this herb tab. I wonder what my current projected herb lore level is. I turned off respect level requirements. If I could make everything, I would get to 52 herb lore just based on banked herbs. Whenever we roll, we need 2 chunks for it, so whenever that happens. Finally, the Bank Delta. This is from the Bank Memory plugin. Up 51 law runes. This is just going to keep climbing. I have to use way fewer of them now that I can actually train in Bolden Niche. And I'm getting more of them because of the wonderful Sudoku boxes that are actually good for me, which is quite funny. We did come ahead on money, which is nice. I need to start planting these acorns. I didn't do it this cycle, but I'll probably work on it next time. And I think that's it for the summary. I guess let's look at music real fast. I keep neglecting to do this. I don't think anyone's going to do the work to compare these, but you can always pause and check it. There might be 2 or 3 tracks on here that are in a adjacent chunk that I accidentally stumbled into due to janky pathing, but that's music. Okay, let's go roll a new chunk. Hey, I was doing my end of cycle sanity check and realized I forgot to kill Obor because I didn't get that giant key drop. So I'm gonna go do that real quick and then I'll edit you back into the chunk picker. All right, here we go. Obor. Last time I just like completely fucked him up, so hopefully that applies again. Colossal Blade makes pretty short work of him as long as it's able to hit. That's 1 Obor kill for the cycle down. 50 big bones, okay. It's actually pretty good for me. Obor kill count is 2. And I'll let you get back to the chunk picker here. Okay, here we are on the chunk picker. Let's just focus on stuff that's changed. Again, gold means I really, really want it. Silver means I also want it. Bronze means I also want it in about descending order with like crown, star, and heart subdividing those. Things that have changed, we can now roll into Sears Village. I can't say I terribly want this. It is, we can't get into the flax patch from here. We won't be able to complete it. And we're definitely not going to be able to do the agility course. It's not a terrible chunk, though. It gets us closer to some other interesting things later on. It gets us closer to the Fermentic province, which is going to matter. I do want to do Celtigrim, but right now the best chance we have at getting into Celtigrim is rolling in Trana and then being able to use fairy rings eventually and being able to teleport there, but that's probably a longer ways off. White Wolf Mountain I have as a quest chunk because that's where fishing contest starts. We will not be able to do it, but we'd be able to start it. We might be able to actually get to the ice giants that are over here. Not particularly excited about this one. West Catherby has, I put it as crafting because there's the field of flax that's over there, which would be great. Actually, I don't know that any flax spawns in this half though. It might be entirely in this half. But I mostly put crafting because that's where the charter ship shop is. Genie. Oh, good thing I put on that notification. It's a genie. Holy shit, that would have been a bummer. Just throw that right on Hunter. Thank you, plugin. Thank you, headphones. All right, 1 dunce would get us to 15. A genie is going to be a little bit short. The charter ship shop would be great because then we could, for actually a bunch of reasons, because we could do some glass blowing, but I could also buy out all of the pineapples there and make super compost with it, which would be useful for some of the rarer allotment seeds that I plant, like strawberries and that kind of a thing. So I would be pretty pleased with getting West Catherby. I don't think it's a completable chunk. Yeah, Renegade Knights, there's stuff there that would stop me from finishing it. But getting a charter ship would also make a bunch of other chunks rollable, and a lot of those rollable chunks would be pretty huge, like being able to get into Arduin finally. Arduin has a lot of stuff in it, but importantly, it lets us finally finish Into the Abyss, which would let us do the RuneCraft minigame. So yeah, I would actually say this is a pretty high priority. If I were to rank it, it would be probably in like the bronze tier or something. Number 1 most wanted chunk is in Shrana. I want to be able to do Lost City. I think that's everything I got to say though. Let's just go ahead and roll this chunk. Come on. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I have this as a quest marker, the Barbarian Outpost, because of Alfred Grimham's bar crawl, which I definitely can't do and will not be able to do for a very long time, which also unfortunately means that I can't do the agility training because I need to have the bar crawl to get in there. So it will not be a completable chunk, and it will not be a reroll chunk for several reasons. One of them is that I can't do that. Monsters here don't really matter. Plank spawn. Remember abusing those plank spawns in Leagues 3. There's some trees, but it could be worse. I guess there's some fishing spots over here? No kidding. I had no idea. I guess this gets us closer to this chunk, which would be great for fishing. I, again, don't know if we could finish it. Waterfall quest starts there, so no, we wouldn't. So it wouldn't be very useful if I can't tap out the fishing nodes there. But that's for the future. We're talking about what do we actually get from this chunk. Big thing is Barbarian Assault. Barbarian Assault, at least in my experience, is only tolerable if you like get together with a group of 4 other people who know what you're doing and do multiple runs over and over, right? It's not a thing that you pug it with 4 other people and then say bye. And in fact, people might not be okay with me doing that. So I might need to come up with some kind of don't be an asshole solution for Barbarian Assault. Kind of like what I have to do with, you know, aggressively using fungibility in the motherlode mine, so I'm not like constantly depleting other people's nodes. I'll have to think about that going into the next episode. I know very little about Barbarian Assault. I've done it a couple times. I've done it on a couple leagues, and I did it on my main account in order to get the full diary. And I don't think I can use the points on anything interesting. I can't like roll the loot table until I max all the rolls. Let me just take a look though while I've got your ear. Okay, so I'm taking a look here, but this is potentially impactful. This could be my best in slot melee chest, potentially for thousands of hours. Like I don't even know when I could get something slightly better than this, to be honest. So it might make sense for me to grab the fighter torso first and then just keep doing it once per cycle and put all the points into maxing all rolls for the diary. But the diary is not going to happen. It possibly will never happen. The fighter torso can happen right away. So maybe that's a little bit better than I'm giving it credit for. I didn't get it on my... By the time I finally had enough points to get it, I had already, you know, way surpassed it. So it would be kind of cool to have that. It's an iconic item. Oh, it's getting complicated. If I don't care about defense, the fighter hat is actually going to probably be best in slot for me for a while. As is the ranger hat, maybe not. I think it's worse than the green dragon coif. And the healer hat, who cares? It's magic. Runner hat is bad, so I don't need to worry about that. Pennant skirt is okay. What does that compare to like green d'hide chaps? It's better. Yeah, pennant skirt is probably my best ranged piece for a while. The runner boots are bad. The penance gloves are probably better than my current gloves, but I don't think they're worth the points. And the granite body... The granite body is better than a rune plate body. That might actually be worth picking up because I don't need to have Dragon Slayer to get it. And, oh, and it just costs money. I think in order to get it, I just need to beat Barbarian Assault once. Yeah, okay. So this is nice. We'll be able to get this right away. This will be our new best in slot melee chest until we get the fighter torso. And the fighter torso will be better whenever defense doesn't matter. So yeah, that's cool. All right, now I want to look at gambling. That's the longer tier benefit to rolling this now. All right, so high gambles, the Archer, Berserker, Warrior, and Farseer helms would all be great. They're actually not very uncommon at 1 in 32, and they're better than the pennant stuff that I can buy. So those would be nice to go for. 750 noted coal. Jeez. Kind of want to do it just for that. This is rough. I think it's correct to hold out and put as many points into leveling up the rolls before I start doing any gambles. It'll just be better for the account long term, but it's hard to turn down 750 noted coal. Good God. The Black Dragon Hide is potentially relevant if we continue to get lots and lots of crafting XP from shooting stars. The mahogany planks are extremely relevant because I don't have any other way to get mahogany. I could actually build some things in my POH that would be useful. I wouldn't use that for training. I would use that to build like costume room stuff. The rune arrow drop is pretty good. The law rune drop is outstanding. The dragon chain body is basically impossible. That won't happen. Looking at the other gamble options here, though. Teak planks, yeah. 400 noted coal. 150 noted coal, even on the worst gamble. Oh, rune axe. All right. So yeah, this is pretty good. I don't know if I'm going to gamble or if I'm going to go for maxing out rolls. I need to figure out really what the advantage of maxing out rolls is. It might be basically nothing, to be honest. It might be best for me to just go in, get the fighter torso, and then just start gambling. And if it ever looks like the diary might be relevant, then start working on maxing rolls. But all of these, I mean, there's a lot of crap on all of the gamble tables, but getting a rune axe this early would be fantastic. Getting some of these coal drops, or like the teak planks and the mahogany planks, that would all be pretty huge. So I wasn't super excited about this. I don't think it's going to be a particularly compelling episode. I do need to figure out a long-term strategy for what the hell am I going to do to not be an asshole in Barbarian Assault, but I'll look into it. Thanks, folks, for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.